you wanna be the best, you gotta outwork the rest. Gotta dig a little deeper, put the pedal to the metal, gotta do what it takes. Make no mistakes, wanna get that good, it comes with the aches. So if you wanna be the best, you gotta outwork the rest. It's time to dig in. This is the I Know It podcast. The I Know It podcast.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name is Adam Droz. If you're new here, I am the founder of Righteous Co. And this is our podcast for men, faithful men, men that are made for more. And we have some great conversations on this channel with real talk about our faith, about our vocations, about our work and leadership into the zones that we're called to. So whether that's on the home front, whether that's in the business, this is a spot for you. So subscribe down below. We'd love to have you along for the ride. We're just getting started. We're only in season 2, 20 some episodes in. We got some great conversations coming up. So you don't want to miss any of it. And by subscribing below, boy, that comes your way. Of course, hit the bell, like our videos. That gives us some traction here on YouTube. Come and join us on the website. We've got a great newsletter for you to check out. With that, we're going to get on to our next conversation, and I hope you love it. So with that, we'll let you go. And we're here today with John Weber, and we're excited to be able to have a conversation here. John is a husband, a father of 3, and an incredible witness of faith. But on top of that, with the work that he does, the labor that he does, and what our conversation is going to be here today is what does it look like to be able to not only live that faith, but step into a conversation around real estate. Yeah. Not only just for your home, but as an investment, what goes into it, what are some of the tips for a faithful and productive man to be able to step into that world, speak some of the language, and have some tips to really make good decisions. Yeah. You know, how do you bring wisdom into that space? There's a lot out there, a lot on the internet that talks about this. So John here is going to cut through a lot of the fat, give us the scoop from the inside. And I think you're going to love this conversation. For a lot of guys who are in that season of life where they're buying homes or thinking about how do I get to that next step in my investment portfolio with owning properties, this is a great conversation for you to stick around with. So welcome to it, and welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
You're here. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
This is going to be great.
I know.
So first time on the pod, he comes with a gift.
I saw this, and I thought, honestly, this fit your not only persona of the show, the Righteous Co. and Iron Ore name, but I feel like this is something we should both try.
Oh, absolutely. And gratefully accepted. Yeah. So we're going to crack this open. This is Old Elk. It's a weeded bourbon.
It is.
I'm curious to see what a weeded bourbon. I don't think I've ever had a weeded bourbon. So we're going to sip on this while we're talking tonight. And wherever this conversation goes, we're going to put it in the Lord's hands. So a little bit for you, a little bit for me. And if you like some too, help yourself.
Yeah.
So, hey, cheers.
Salud.
Salud.
Ooh.
That's got a bite.
That is.
That is spicy. I like that.
But it doesn't have that heavy afterburn. I mean, I have it on the tip of my tongue, but that is not sticking with me long. That's great.
Wow, that's nice.
Wow.
That's nice. We enjoy a nice pour over here. And so whatever you're drinking, have a nice pour. Maybe you're watching this in the morning. Enjoy your coffee. At night, hey, grab a pour too.
Absolutely.
Well, John, maybe we can start off by having you share a little bit about your witness. You know, where did you start picking up your faith journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ultimately, my entire life, from an upbringing with my family, and God has always been a very big part of my life. We have always been churchgoers. We've always prayed before every meal. But realistically, I found that I was being called to a much closer relationship with God through, and the way that my wife puts it, God winks. These are small little kind of, I'll call them moments that God puts in our lives that if we're watching, we know he's there. We know he answers your prayers and all these other type of, I'll call them situations that, maybe you don't have the answer, but he lets you know that he's got you basically on the direction he wants you to go. So, and I didn't really ever put a name to it until realistically it was Kristen Pier's daughter, Dora, who put a name to it. And we loved it, Rochelle and I, my wife, and we adapted that and kind of taught it to our children. And ever since then, that's been kind of the perfect little kind of name for the moment. But what was nice is my whole life, I've always felt like I've had a much louder calling, especially than just say like my brother or my parents or whatever it would be. I felt very much connected to the point where, growing up playing ice hockey as a goalie, a bunch of parents called me Pope John. I was very religious. As a warm-up between the pipes, I'd tap the stick to my helmet, the ice, and then my two side posts to make the sign of the cross. And I always had we'll call it safety blanket. Something that I was able to at least know was, I'll say, present in my life, even if I wasn't looking. So, and that's something that, especially as I got older, as life obviously takes its toll, sometimes you lose a little bit of your direction, but always knowing that faith was with you. That's something that kind of from a beginning standpoint, and as I gradually got older into the man I am today, I've always had God with me, but never seeing it in the moment is something that is scary. It's almost a risk you take because you don't know which direction you need to go. But it is the type of thing where once you understand and find it and surround yourself with faith and love and truly the blessings that he's given you, it truly clears the path for which direction you need to go.
What were some of the moments that you found impactful, like with those God winks that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I'll try to think of a couple of different examples of like just pure God wink kind of moments. But like for one example that I had, my hockey team, we were young. We were probably like 14, 15 age. We made it basically to the round right before nationals. Good little country boy team. We had like 13 skaters, nothing fancy. But we ended up losing in the championship game that would have sent us to nationals. And I'm in the car. I just am as hot as a bull seeing red. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And I'll never forget this. My mom, she just basically said, hey, listen, everything happens for a reason. God has a plan. We can't see it, but this is what he needed to show you. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it for a decade after she said that. Now, as I'm older, I understand. That loss taught me more than winning that game. And by losing that game, it put me on a different path that God wanted me on than what I wanted to be on. And some other God winks, especially with my children, is you see how hard they train, and you're watching your daughter in a figure skating competition, and they've been trying so hard, but they keep messing up maybe this one part of the dance or one part of the routine. And I say a prayer right before their performance, and I look up and maybe I see just a cloud clears and you see the sun just shine right in through the window, and it's just a warm feeling, and you're just like, a peace settles over you. And then you look, your daughter's routine starts and she nails every single piece, and we went to Skinny Atlas, and both my daughters ended up winning that competition.
Wow.
So, but these type of God winks that are in our lives, and that if you notice them, they're just a nice reassurance that hey, listen, sometimes when you pray or you are lost in what direction you're in or whatever the case might be, and that footprints prayer is another great example, which is, how come you weren't there when I was at my lowest and when I needed you? And it actually was, those are my footprints carrying you through those hard times. So that's really, these God winks are all around us. And when you pray and when you look for them, it really is something that is noticeable.
My grandmother had that footprints prayer up in her house. And I remember seeing that, and I wondered what that was all about. I didn't understand that until a lot later. And that is a powerful reflection, right? Because it feels like sometimes he just leaves us alone. We look backwards like, where were you in that?
Yeah.
But he's sitting there carrying us through it. And that's the soul footprint. He doesn't just leave us alone.
Yeah.
Wow, what a reflection. So I love talking about vocation. Mm-hmm. I think especially for us guys, to talk about vocation a lot more, I think, is an important thing. It's one of the most important things that we do in our life. How did you meet Rochelle? How did you get to this vocation of marriage?
So, believe it or not, Rochelle and I both went to Mercyhurst in Erie, Pennsylvania. She was a grade lower than myself, but she was graduating actually in 3 years. I did it in 4. And at that time, we were just friends. It was truly not even anything emotionally connected at that time. We really just had the same group of friends, and it was great hanging out. But we both matured very quickly right before graduation. We both had that same feeling of we are ready to kind of become young adults and move forward. And to kind of keep the story as short as possible, I ended up getting a job for the NHL to work for the National Predators. So I did video production and marketing. I did a lot of I'll call it techie stuff when it came to the video editing and all that fun jazz that kind of happens behind the scenes. So Rochelle and I moved together down to Nashville. She got a job at a 5-diamond hotel. And really that was when our journey began. We started setting the foundation for what would eventually become a solid tree for our children and everything of that nature. But ultimately, when I asked her to be my wife and to get engaged, we decided that Nashville was just a little bit too far. We moved back to Buffalo, and that was kind of the right move because, one, not only did it put us close to her family, but it also allowed Rochelle and I to have opportunities to come to places like St. Gregory the Great and to meet people like yourself and a couple of other really good families that are truly faith-filled and really have the right type of people to surround and give the, I should say, support system that's needed to have a faith-filled life, to truly count on your blessings, and to lift you up, to be able to kind of say, listen, this is when everyone has a dark time or when people need an extra kind of guidance in hand. Those were the people that we could really count on. And that's made all of the difference for Rochelle and I.
Finding community is so important.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about here, we were both planted at St. Greg's. I was there, still am, 14 years, there is no place like having a faithful community that helps build up not only your own spirituality, but your family too. You can trust to bring your family there. You can say, I'm going to raise my kids here. I know that there's community here. I know that there's younger people here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad examples of community out there. But when you anchor yourself into a good community, that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And even for Rochelle, this was something that St. Greg's for her, she grew up, found St. Greg's. She was very into youth ministry which I believe you know a little bit about.
Yep.
She helped with, and I know I'm going to butcher this right now. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to watch this later and realize that I got it wrong. I believe it was Don Yacono and Rochelle worked hand in hand on the St. Gianna Mala donation. And they really pioneered that to a degree. And that was something that, to this day, even Rochelle and I and our children, we donate to the St. Gianna Mala Center every year. And even my oldest daughter, Isabella, for her 8th or 9th birthday, she asked all of her friends, please, I don't want any gifts. Everything you give me, I'm going to give as a donation to the St. Gianna Mala. And sure enough, we packed up the truck. We drove downtown. She unloaded everything, and she did the whole process. And God wink, in the car ride back, she kept saying, I feel so good. Like her heart was just so full of just love. And I can't even explain how much as a parent that feels just impeccably amazing. So, but yes, so Rochelle, really nice connection growing up, obviously, as a youth in that kind of community. And then even afterwards for Rochelle and I, we got married at St. Greg's. We had all of our children baptized at St. Greg's. And what really kind of was a blessing, I know not for a lot of people, but through COVID, we obviously took that time to really kind of become more faith-filled as a family. And then right as we were able to kind of leave our homes, we made it really much a determined goal to stay at St. Greg's, to attend as many daily masses as we could or weekly masses, to go to the Adoration Chapel, to be more open about kind of being that, I'll say, faith-filled family that we could be. Because I know a lot of people, and especially myself growing up, I would say that I was Catholic. I mean, I went to church before. I would receive the Eucharist. I mean, I understood kind of the tip of the iceberg conversation about it. But it really, and I give credit to Rochelle and to kind of her drive. You don't have to be a closet Catholic to and think that's okay. Like it's okay to go and to stand on Maple for March for Life and to be open about it and to pray the rosary as a family and let them know this is okay. Like you can talk about God. You can read the Bible together and go through different gospel packages. And it was Rochelle, I mean, 100% Rochelle, who guided me at a time where I was a young man who had a family into being a Saint Joseph head of the household. And that was, I mean, and it was absolutely, I give all the credit in the world to Rochelle because she took me from being a husband and a father to being a faith-filled, open Catholic man that is only trying to be a better disciple of Christ.
Man, what a witness. So, I guess I have a few questions here. So, tell me about what that is like in that transformation, right? You said I was going, but my wife inspired me to this higher level. Tell me about that process internally as you were kind of crawling through that. Was that something that you were inspired by her? Did you feel this call of duty to like rise to the occasion? How is it that you went from point A to point B?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say the short answer is it definitely wasn't a light switch. It wasn't she woke me up one morning and said, we're going to church. And I was just like, boom, I'm St. Joseph. Like I got it. It was a process. So ultimately it was small acts that continuously led us to using our faith and the blessings in our lives to become a standard model of direction and guidance for our family. So, and here's another kind of thing. I had never been to the Fatima Shrine. I mean, I'd heard about it, but I just never went. And now that has become more of a standard kind of practice in our home, is to go to the Fatima Shrine. And recently she did a mass there, and everything went very well. But it's setting up these small kind of, I'll call them acts, or scheduling specific times during your busy life and busy schedule to always put faith first, or to always have God being a part of your daily routine, really helped kind of set that direction. So for Rochelle, it would be suggesting that, hey, listen, instead of us going to the Galleria Mall or something, or going to, I don't know, we're going to just go to a Sabres game or whatever the case might be, she would suggest, hey, let's go to the Fatima Shrine. Or, hey, you know what, instead of us going to the public library, let's go to the Love Library. Or let's do, we've had a crazy busy day, we're leaving the Northtown or Pepsi Center, we're driving down Maple Road, and she'd be like, hey, do you mind if we just stop in at like Adoration for like just 5 minutes? And for myself, being in the beginning of the process, I would think that was very strange. I would think that's something that would be like, well, that's a waste of time. Or that's something like, well, I got to get the kids home, I got to get them a bath, we have to get ready for bed, they would need a snack. Like, I didn't quite factor in the fact that I was putting God as less important than whatever our busy lives have. And she helped kind of refresh the kind of that kiln that I had inside, to drive me to remember it's always God first. And then it eventually turned into 5 minutes of adoration. Was like, okay, after we go to the ice rink, guys, after your figure skating practice, we're going to go to adoration for like an hour. And we're going to just like spend time and say a rosary or whatever it might be. So, yeah, Rochelle really, really did a great job relighting that flame inside of me, which was you thinking of the mindset, this is odd, strange, uncomfortable. It's not something you openly talk about at every occasion. However, that is okay. You can talk about it. You can preach Jesus' name from every rooftop. I mean, it's something that now, as I am older and we have kind of moved into that direction of basically being more open about our faith and our love of Jesus and God, it was her acts of small kindness and God winks and motivation to kind of drive us to be who we are today. And I mean, and it's changed my life for the better in almost every aspect. So, I mean, it's I now coming full circle into kind of today, I have been able to put faith first. I have been healthier with my weight and my physical kind of body. I
was going to say, you look good, man.
So I used to weigh like 265. It was what I used to weigh. And I'm down now to like 222. I've shredded the weight. And once again, I didn't pray and like it just fell off. But what I was able to do is when I put faith first and you let that be my driving force, everything else seemed to fall into place. So my crazy busy schedule that I felt like I couldn't even stay organized for three minutes of my day tended to be a little bit more organized. And my schedule seemed to have more free time, but it was still very full. My health was much better. My eating habits were much better. My attention to my family got better. My attitude was better towards everybody in my family. And once again, good days, bad days. I'm not saying I'm a perfect human being, but I did notice from who I was before to who I am now, I have been able to make small corrections while keeping faith first. So, and that's been a huge goal of mine for the last couple of years, And I know we've talked about this on other occasions, doing Bible in a year with Father Mike Schmidt, and during my free time, instead of pulling up social media or kind of falling into old habits that aren't necessarily faith-filled, doing Bible in a year was something that really drove me to kind of utilize the time I had in a better manner. And then, of course, there's other things too, which is correcting your social media algorithm and replacing it with faith-filled content, doing Bible in a year, having meditation periods where you just turn off and just 5 minutes, you and God in a room, just talking. It just heals the soul on so many levels. So
You're inspiring, actually, even my thought process right now. The way that you talk about Rochelle, the way that you talk about your wife is inspiring. I think that shows a deep love and respect that's reciprocal, right? Because she's leading with the heart of the faith, and you're responding in a way that's respecting her prompting, right?
Yeah.
This extension of her heart, and you're responding with your heart in a way that's elevating the both of you.
Yeah.
It's elevating your family.
Yeah, it's never been a competition ever. And that's, and once again, I can tell you from being married and having a family and whatnot, you have your good days, you have your bad days, you can have arguments, you can, it's all part of being human. Right. However, what I always fall back on and remember is, in the eyes of the church, when we said I do and we did our vows and we got married, we are a team. We are one and it really, that's something I always kind of remember, which is, I don't care how bad of a day I've had. I don't care what attitude I'm giving off to the whole family. She's never the enemy. We are together. She has good days. I have bad days. We have to kind of help each other in those moments. And she has been kind of really the type of guidance that I needed to only better myself. But we homeschool our kids, so she teaches them every day. And that's been the best thing for us. She's just been an amazing teacher to them. She's so patient. She's a great mother. She's a great wife. She's the best friend of mine. And that goes back to where we met. We were friends. We didn't start a relationship immediately. We would just hang out. We were buds. It sounds weird, but I think that helped set a good foundation. But ultimately, too, what it's kind of done as well from my perspective is, I think as I have kind of started the process of taking over what would be this head of the household role and whatnot, and now I'm starting to suggest things like, hey, let's go to adoration and let's do all this other stuff. It's opened up both of our opportunities for our children to kind of say, okay, mom and dad are leading by example, and they are very faith-filled, and they're both moving forward in this direction. And if we're one team and one unit that is driving towards getting to heaven and allowing kind of our lives to be geared towards praying to the saints and reading the Gospels and understanding the message that Jesus gave in all of his parables and whatnot. It's I'm not saying that we're perfect, but it's definitely a step in the right direction, because ultimately our goal is to get to heaven.
Right.
And as a parent, we just want that for our kids. I'm one of the things that Rochelle did too, and just another example, when Isabella, our oldest, got her first communion, she started wearing a veil to church. And now that Gianna made her first penance, she likes wearing the veil to church. So, and it's nothing major, no rhyme or reason to kind of being pressured into it. But to them, it's their way of showing how they are present with the Lord at church. And I can't tell you how many people come up to Rochelle and I at the end of church and are just like, we are just so amazed at how like your kids do well at church, and like they're so well behaved, and quite frankly, I didn't do any of it. Like, that's all Rochelle. I mean, she'd be the ones from a little age when they were young, getting them like interested in kind of, hey, like this is happening next. Like, let's watch the procession. Like, which priest is it coming down? Like, do you know where the tabernacle is? Little things, just like she did with me. I mean, not saying I'm a child, but she kind of did the same aspects, where if you're able to understand what's around and what's going on and what they're doing and how it's being done, now it becomes normal, and it really is something that I can cherish and really be truly blessed to not only have a partner that has helped myself, but to also help our children.
What would you say to any man that's listening who's maybe walking that lukewarm road, maybe even out of the game, that's considering a journey back into it? What would you say to that guy who is listening to that conversation about this faithfulness that feels distant, right? That feels maybe out of reach or a little alien. How would you address that guy and encourage him to take ownership of his faith and drive his family into it?
So, yeah, absolutely. If you're watching this, and realistically, if you want to know a question, whatever's on your soul, whatever is in your heart, whatever's troubling you, or anything that really you want to try to get an answer for, close your eyes, quiet your soul, be as still as possible, and pray. The power of prayer has helped me on more than one occasion, from my career to my faith to my family. Prayer is absolutely the best thing that you can do. Meditate with God, listen to Him, truly open yourself to His will. Everything happens for a reason, and I don't care how dark of a place you are. I don't care if it doesn't look like there is any escape. Jesus, being the light of the world, is always open and willing to accept you. No matter how many sins you've committed, no matter what you've done, He is willing to basically welcome you with open arms. So first and foremost, for yourself, help unharden your heart. Allow Jesus to come in and really be present with you. And then the second thing I have, which would be, once you start opening that door to prayer, understand that communication is key. Being able to talk with your partner, being able to understand maybe the perspective that they're coming from, being able to listen to the Word of God and use that as kind of a sail, that His Word is the wind that can push you in any direction. Opening your heart, being able to listen to His will with your partner, openly talking about it, being able to address topics that may be uncomfortable, aren't that uncomfortable when it gets talked about more frequently. So all of these little factors are kind of beginning stepping stones to get to the right path, which is basically the will of God. Now, I mean, everybody's in their own situation. Some people might be married and struggling. Some people might be in a relationship. Some people might be single, whatever the case might be. But for a male that is trying to be as closely idolized to Saint Joseph, the head of the household, truly the best thing you can do is meditate, prayer, open yourself, and work on your own well-being, and everything will gradually come into place after that fact.
I feel like we could just wrap this up here and have just an ace conversation. What a call to action.
Right.
And that prayer that you're talking about is available and free to all of us. And all you have to do is just do it. And I think for the guy on the sidelines, maybe looking in on the conversation and wondering, like, man, what is that? How do I even do that? You just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it's you're on a ride, you're just on a drive. Maybe you're at the library. Maybe you're at your studies. Maybe you're in school. Maybe you're at home. The kids are in bed. The wife is in bed or watching TV. Take that time, have a little solace, set the stage for it. And even if you don't have to have the perfect words for it. You can just step into it and you can bumble your way through it if you feel like it was just a big mistake, like, man, I didn't do that right. No, you did it right.
Yeah.
And so if you find yourself in that situation, just like what John was saying, pray. And if that has been foreign to you for some time, that is something that is always available. And you can restart anytime, right? It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And if you get to that point and you need a hand and you're saying, you know what, I did the thing, I did the conversation, I did the prayer. Now what do I do? Reach out to somebody in the community. Reach out to a faithful guy. Reach out here. We'd be more than happy to make a connection for you.
Yeah.
And that is the start of an incredible journey.
Right.
Right. It changes your life. It changes your family tree. It changes everything that you're doing.
Right. And it's small acts. It's
Right.
like Facebook was a huge guilty pleasure of mine. And it wasn't the type of thing where I was addicted to social media that I had to just basically scrolling 24/7. But I realized the algorithm that I'd put into place was not as faith-filled as it should have been. And little acts, like you just said, how if you're taking a drive home and you just need to talk to God and you just quiet, that's a great time to be alone in the car. Or if you're walking your dog down the neighborhood and you're used to just playing music, just turn it off and just be quiet. For me, it was a lot of my social media. I tried to completely rechange all the algorithms. So it's basically filled now with Catholic messages and hockey updates. It's about two things I have on there. But yes, there is no wrong way to pray. As long as you listen, speak from the heart, and you truly want to be better, there is always people that will help you. So if you need help here, we can help.
Absolutely. Well, hey, man, I love that conversation. I feel like we can keep going. But what I'd like to do is change gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
And switch from this foundation that builds up our character to set up our labor, right?
Okay.
And for you have had an incredible career. Like you were saying earlier, you were working in the NHL. You were doing digital media. And you had switched gears moving into Buffalo into doing real estate.
That's right.
So can you talk about what it's like to not only change out of a career and get into a field like real estate, but why did you do it to begin with? Like what drew you into doing real estate and working with properties and land?
Yeah. So when we transitioned over to Buffalo and we got our roots settled down here, Rochelle's family is Recchio. So a lot of people know that name from Recchio Bowling Lane down in the South Towns. Recchio Real Estate is what Rick and Tammy, Rochelle's parents, have kind of owned and operated. So they've been doing that for about 35 years. And Rick Recchio, he is just an amazing father-in-law. He's just even incredible mentor. But the one thing that really stands out is he has such a big heart, and he would do anything for everyone else. It doesn't matter what is going on in his life or what's kind of the struggles. If you ever needed him, he'd be there. And that's just such you can see that in Rochelle. You can see that in all of his children. And Tammy as well. She would give the shirt off her back to anybody in need. And she used to be a registered ER nurse. And there's many stories of her hopping out of the car on like a car accident, running, and saving someone's life. So just incredible people. I mean, ultimately, they should be proud in their own of the children that they've raised with Rochelle and Rick and Bobby and Nikki. But ultimately, kind of switching gears, when I started this real estate adventure, it was the type of thing where I had not only, I should say, experience in just communications and social media and the tech side of things. I did a lot of construction and marketing. So having a construction background and knowing kind of how buildings were built and how certain products were used and kind of understanding the foundation of kind of these homes and these commercial buildings, when I eventually took the leap into real estate under Recchio Real Estate, it is the type of transition that is just like taking a leap of faith. You may not know where you're going to land. However, you know it's the right decision. When I started in real estate, I don't care what TV shows you watch. You don't start making millions of dollars and drive these fancy cars and have these luxury homes. You start grinding, and it is the type of process and procedure where you're working half days, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's just your standard hours. That's not even including the overtime. As I started in this transition into real estate, Rick was able to show me how to be successful through what he had done. And then he also, in the same way that he was holding my hand, threw me into the deep end and let me figure out how to swim. And it was an amazing balance, because as much as I was drowning, I kind of always knew that he had like the rope to the harness kind of ready to pull me back anytime I needed to, or like the safety vest or whatever you want to call it. So I was able to kind of get my feet wet. I learned a lot on my own. I was really kind of trying to absorb as much information as possible. I did a lot more residential real estate than I did commercial real estate when I first started. Residential real estate is a lot faster. You usually can show a client a house, go under contract, close on the property in a shorter window than if you did a commercial real estate deal, which means ultimately money would flow through your bank account a little bit quicker. During this time was, I should say, one of those type of moments where I lost track of my faith as being the number one priority. I was always faith-filled, but I would always put either my work ahead of that, or I would make an excuse of I'm just too busy to pray, or I'm too busy to do something that eventually led me into realizing kind of right after COVID, hey, you've got to change something here. There's got to be something that's going to have to give. That transition into real estate, and especially from a faith perspective, what was nice is I had the support of a family. Rochelle is also a real estate broker, so she understands the name of the game, and Rick and her and Tammy, they are all real estate brokers. So like it's part of the family blood. But ultimately, after I got myself settled and started, I should say the first 3 years are just pure grind. After I got through that and I was able to really kind of stand on my own feet, and I was really able to kind of feel like I went from being the rookie real estate agent on a transaction to almost being a veteran one, where I would have people kind of contact me and go, I've got a question about this deal. How would you handle it? That's when I started to realize, hey, I've got a career here. I've got something that I enjoy doing every day. I have been able to support a family through it. And I'm able to kind of have a flexible schedule that still allows me to put God first and support my family and be a part of their daily lives. So what I like to do is when I wake up in the morning, granted, I'm not the fastest person in the morning, but I'd like to have breakfast with the kids, kind of make sure they're good for the day. I'll go into work. I come home, 5 o'clock, more family time, get the kids ready for bed, and then I'll go back to the office from like 9 to midnight, kind of burning that midnight oil. But once again, it's a structure that I have found that works well for me, that I'm able to balance and juggle all of the important things in my life without feeling like I'm missing out on anything.
So speaking of that grind, right? So tell me about the work ethic that needs to go into that, especially on that first start. You're exiting a career where you had some establishment, you already had some rhythms with. Right. Now you're entering something that's back in a new city. You have to make new connections. You really have to dig into this because the failure rate is very real. I mean, you could step into that fail if you don't put the right work in. So what does it look like to be able to step into that and say, I'm driven to get this thing done?
Yeah, it is very much a haunting feeling knowing failure is right behind you. I mean, there comes a point where, and I think every real estate agent has this moment where they need a deal to close or they just can't take it anymore. And God wink. Okay. Little story, and then remind me to get back to the original question of kind of the journey and process.
Sure.
I had a deal going. It was a very big property somewhere between Rochester and Buffalo. Now, this would have been about year 2 to 3 in my real estate career where I was either going to sink or swim really quickly. I mean, I needed some big deals to go through. This property, I will never forget. I had called the owner the night before, and we had a deal on the table, and it was just under like $1 million deal. I mean, it was pretty significant for especially a young real estate agent. And I called the owner, and I was like, "Hey guys, the buyer's counter offering at like X price, whatever it was." And he wanted to be like, it was like $100,000 swing. Like we just couldn't meet in the middle. I'll never forget. It was a snowy day, but it was one of those beautiful blue sky winter Buffalo days. And I walked my dogs, and I remember I, for some reason, took a very long walk around the neighborhood. Like, I don't take this route. But I caught myself like a half mile from my house on this walk with the dogs. And I remember I was meditating the whole way, wasn't saying anything, just quieting my heart. And then I finally looked up at the sky and I said, "Lord, please give me the answer of what I need to do." Just, I wasn't asking for the deal to go one way or the other. I just said, "Let me know what your will is." And within 2 minutes, I got a text from the seller saying, "I'll take the counteroffer. Good deal. We'll get the deal done." I was like, I like goosebumps all over right now, but like God wink.
Oh man, yeah, what a wink.
So that is like one instant where you are just, if you open your heart to the Lord, He will answer. And it may not be always the answer you want to hear, and you may not understand it, but like that, for example, was like a really like powerful prayer that, man, did He send His reply right afterwards. So going into that was a great story, kind of getting into the topic of where you asked, I believe you were trying to figure what's the process like, kind of grinding in the beginning.
Right.
As a young real estate agent, you take anything you can get. Like any dilapidated house, go on Zillow, for sale by owner. You call the owner, "Hey, I see your house has been available for 40 days and it's still active. Have you thought about using a real estate broker?" It's a grind. I mean, and especially not being from Buffalo myself, growing up in a small little town of Hagerstown, which is in Maryland, kind of near West Virginia side. I didn't know anybody in Buffalo. I mean, it's as much as a move to Nashville for me as it was the move to Buffalo. So I didn't know anybody. I didn't have like that network where, hey, I grew up with this kid and we went to high school together and now we both have established families in the city and have all of these friends that we can rely on. My grind was more, how do I connect with these people and what is it going to take to get me to stand out? And I only really had two things that I could do. You can promise the world to somebody. I'm the number one real estate agent in Buffalo, New York. I am going to call more people than anybody else you've ever known. That's not true. I mean, I don't listen to 90% of the kind of fluff that any of these real estate agents give. And there are a bunch that are really good. There's a bunch that kind of float the ethical line. But ultimately, what only thing I could promise my clients was I'm going to be 100% honest. I will never steer you in the wrong direction. If you ask me a question, I'll answer it honestly. And whether that's good or bad, you're always going to get honest out of me. And two, I will work harder than anybody else. I will go into the office. I'm going to be sending you emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's just when I'm grinding. You have a question, I'll find you an answer. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to get you the answer, and I'm going to learn from that so that the next time a client asks me that question, I either know where to go, who to call, or I already have the answer that I can provide. So it's all about absorbing that type of knowledge, experience. Everything is just basically absorbed because you don't have anything. You don't have any legs to stand on. But what I found was if I was honest with my clients and I was able to be true to who I am as a person, and that's what the service I provide, and that's what they got, I realized that I was able to keep clients easier. They would come back. They would want to work with me. I was able to gain new clients from referrals from other clients. And this is not the type of thing where it happens overnight. It was one house leads to another house, and then that might lead you to a commercial property, and then that might lead you to another client. But once again, there's a bunch of dead ends. Sometimes a client, you show them 100 houses, and then they go, you know what? I decided I'm moving out of the city. Well, that was 100 houses that I'll never get back of wasted time. But you keep your head up. You are honest with them. You say, listen, I hope you the best. If you ever have any questions, I'd love kind of to speak with you about it. You take it on the chin and you keep moving forward. And there's mistakes that are made. You're not perfect. One thing I learned, which it's a little life lesson, but I got a listing. It had expired. I was so excited. I called up the sign guy that installed our signs and I said, hey, can you take that broker's sign down and put ours up? About 3 hours later, I got a call from the broker whose sign I took down, and I got an earful. Like, this was like a veteran real estate agent that, like, I learned very quickly, don't touch a sign. So I got an earful from him. And then I walked in my broker's office, Rick, and I got an earful from him too. And I learned you don't touch other people's signs. So then I apologized and moved forward. But I learned you don't touch other people's signs. And ever since then, I have kept that with me. And when brokers call and say, hey, listen, do you mind if I do this? And I'm like, hey, just don't touch their sign. Don't do this. Like, I kind of gear people in the right direction. The entire process of the grinding, the first 3 years, really, it's really easy to lose yourself. It's really easy to be just too engulfed in your work, to forget about family, to feel like it's overwhelmingly too much. But it's something that as long as you keep God with you, it's not. It is a lot of hours, but it's not impossible. It is going to be a hard task, but so is carrying crosses. It's going to be the type of thing where a support system like I had with Rochelle and with my family and my father-in-law and my mother-in-law helping me and helping us made it possible. And now that I have kind of gone past that grind process, and that would be basically, I'm kind of about a decade into this, somewhere in that time frame, I've kind of lost count. Now when I do these deals, I still learn every day. I'm still promising the same thing. I'm going to be honest with my clients, and I'm going to work harder than I've ever worked before. But now I know a little bit more. I've gotten bigger deals. I've gain trust with a lot of my clients, and I'm able to expand my portfolio, but I'm still grinding at midnight. I'm still honest with all of my clients. I still pick up the phone for somebody who wants 200 square feet for a small little office, and they only have kind of 1 month's rent to pay for it. And I treat them the exact same way that if I had a $1 billion client looking for $1 million worth of real estate. You're still going to get the same honesty and the same dedication, no matter whether it's the small guy or the big guy. And that has been what's pioneered my real estate career, to being that individual and never falling into the money, the corruption, the politics, the unethical side of losing who you are. And to me, I praise Jesus and the Holy Spirit and God the Father for giving me not only the platform to communicate with other people and to be able to work with them on a day-to-day basis, and to be able to provide the opportunity for them to get this investment property, or to maybe get their first home to start a family, or to maybe it's a divorce and they're trying to start a new life, or maybe it's their big break, or maybe it's a whole new adventure for them. Everybody's story is a little bit different, but being able to be a part of that and to be able to use my guided hand that God is guiding helps me always know that I am doing the right thing.
Well, hey, listen, if you're in Buffalo and you're looking for a man of integrity to guide you through that process, John is your guy.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the industry, the investment of this, right? So you've got young men, you've got maybe even guys who are like myself, looking at their next house, looking to buy for their family. What goes into buying a home, buying a property?
Yeah.
What are some of the things, just baseline, that you would recommend? Hey, this is how you prepare for this. Here's what you look at when you're getting into the market, or you're doing this for the first time.
Yeah. So for any, and once again, for any investor that is, and I when I use the term investor, I'm not saying it as in like, I've got $1 million in my back pocket and I'm looking to invest my money. Sure. I'm looking to invest my money into a huge portfolio. Not what I mean. This could be your first house. Not everybody dabbles in real estate on a day-to-day operation. So this is a very foreign process and procedure. For me personally, it's like buying a car. Like, I don't do it all the time, and I get very nervous when I'm sitting in front of the salesman, and I always say the wrong thing, and it's not my cup of tea. However, throughout this process of buying a house, a duplex, a triplex, a small commercial property, all the way up to the big industrial warehouses, the process is relatively the same. So the first thing you need to do is understand what you're looking for. So whether it's my first home, or it's I already have a home, I'm looking to get a duplex so I can live in one side and maybe have a tenant in the other, and that will help pay for the mortgage and the taxes, and I might be able to save a little bit of money, put some back into the property, and then when I go to buy my next property or home or investment, I can use that as a rental property. Knowing what direction you're going in is the first step. Knowing what your needs are, what that criteria is, where you would like to be located, that's step one. Step two is financially figuring out what you're looking for and what financial kind of burden or financial obligations you have. Whether it's I have to talk to a mortgage lender and figure out how much I can afford, seeing how much you have saved up, factoring in what the expenses would be of closing costs, commission for a real estate agent, an attorney fee. And I know I'm just literally lobbing all of these terms at you. This is what a real estate broker like myself can help guide you through the process. So one, knowing what you're looking for. 2, figuring out what your financials are allowing you to purchase. I mean, I'd love to buy a 100,000 square foot warehouse space, and unfortunately, I can't afford that. I'm only I have to look in this window. Once you know then what you're looking for and what your finances are, the next step really is talking with a real estate broker about what's on the market, because there's opportunities and kind of deals in the works that a broker might be way more privy to than just say Zillow or what the internet says or any other kind of. I was talking to my neighbor and he said this was a good deal down the street. It's always good to kind of get that reassurance type factor of kind of, oh, I really need to know kind of the most accurate information as possible. When you start the process of kind of dealing with a real estate broker, I do look at commercial and residential slightly different. Residential is very emotional heavy. When I bring you through to a property, you're going to go through the home. We're going to talk about the memories you could make there. I'm going to show you all the space. We're going to try to plant some seeds into what the home might be. After the fact, then we're going to discuss, here's the taxes, here's the square footage, this is the price, and then try to see if it fits within the budget. Commercial real estate is almost the polar opposite. I'm going to tell you what the taxes are, what the square footage is, what the price is. I'm going to give you every tidbit of information first. Then after we've discussed this, then we'll go take a look at the property. So very similar in a way, but we're kind of doing it in the opposite process and procedure. Once you get kind of through finding what you want and working with a broker and going through that entire process, going through the under contract phase towards closing is the downhill process. That's when all the terms are agreed upon. Usually from a real estate agent's perspective, we are going a mile a minute, but for the investor side of things, you're just kind of coasting at that point. But we're always on the back end making sure the deal is staying afloat, nothing's crashing and burning. We're talking to the attorneys, talking with the different sides and kind of going from there. But ultimately, from a process perspective, what is key in this is similar to what I mentioned with kind of Rochelle and I. The communication is unparalleled. If you call me 3 times a day because you want to know what's going on with the process, perfect. I'll tell you everything. I'll give you the updates that you need. But if you're not communicating with me, and if you're expecting everything to work out and we haven't talked in 3 months and it's like, oh, I just thought it was going well. And I was like, no, we needed to kind of move that along. Those are kind of some of the key components of kind of from the process and procedures that you would do.
Okay. So for somebody who's looking at getting their first home, and I'm taking myself back 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing stepping into it. And we had a great realtor who was really on top of things. She was a wonderful woman, got us here, right? But we had to go through, it was over 50 houses where you, especially on the front end of that, and you start to numb, but the front end of that, you get emotional, right? And my dad was really awesome on tempering that. Be like, son, listen, you have to temper this. Your wife's going to have enough emotion. You got to make sure that you're stepping into this in, a clear-headed way. And that was actually really helpful and sobering, because then I could see it as the largest purchase that I would have made up to that point. And for a lot of people, their first time home, that's their biggest purchase. So you're putting a lot of resources in it, you're putting a lot of time into it, but oftentimes you don't know what you're looking for. And you don't know what you're even seeing. Because when you look at some of these houses, we saw some real garbage houses, man. Places. There was one house that we were really close. Ani and I both went into it. We loved it. And it had this very modern sense to it. It was a flip, but it looked like it was well done. And a neat feature to that house was on the ceilings for the downstairs. They had this, it was like a real tight vinyl, I've never seen this before in another house before or since this, but it was this tight vinyl, reflective. It was like this white vinyl. A very neat look, very modern, contemporary look. And the house itself was laid out very well, a lot of cool features, and we're like, I think this is it. My father-in-law came down, and he's like, no, I'm going to go take a look underneath. And so he actually gets underneath into the foundation of the house, right? He gets into this little crawl hole.
Yeah.
He's got his little flashlight. I'm like, you don't have to do this. Like, I think we're going to be okay. He finds a lot of water damage in there. He's like, we got problems.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, there was a fire in this home that they didn't even mention it.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole thing blew apart, right?
Right.
We come walking away just frustrated and weary, right? Because then you start to feel like, man, what is out here that is actually honest?
Right.
Because it felt like a lot of things, everyone's trying to put on the best face to the house. And you get caught up in the emotion of buying your new house, and you're like, well, what's a wise decision? How do you enter in this with some wisdom?
Right.
So how would you approach somebody who's buying for the first time?
So first and foremost, the first thing I would recommend is don't try to go through this process on your own. Utilize a real estate agent or a real estate broker. That's what our career is based out. I mean, I can't stress this enough how many people have told me these horror stories of, yeah, we thought we could do it on our own. We bought our first house. It was an absolute nightmare. They threw makeup on a pig. They just put new paint up. And next you know, we have this just one problem after another home that is definitely, it is a horror story that we hear in our industry. And similar to what you had mentioned, because you made two really strong points, which was your father-in-law going under the house and looking. I always recommend to my clients, you should get a home inspection. What that is once you get under contract, where the buyer and the seller have agreed to terms, the buyer has the right to inspect the home with a licensed home inspector, which they're going to be the type of person that's going to go into the attic, go under the house. They're going to check every nook and cranny and then give you a report of what they find. That report is going to have good, it's going to have some things bad, and it's going to have some things that are ugly. And based on what they find, I advise my clients, we walk away from the deal, we alter the terms of the deal to reflect what we just found, or hey, we're pleasantly surprised that the report didn't come back with anything that we didn't already know of or were aware of. So for step one, always use a real estate broker or a real estate agent. Just the experience we have, the knowledge, even like a younger agent that's just kind of getting into it still has more experience than you do. So that's first thing. First and foremost, always use an agent and always get a home inspection. And even with commercial properties, have what's called a due diligence period. It's a period in which after the contract signed, you have X amount of days to have any licensed contractor come through the property, any kind of paperwork you want to double check with the township or anything of that nature. If you want to have environmentals done or anything with the DEC or Army Corps of Engineer, these are all process and procedures that you would do before committing to buying the property. The second component that you mentioned was how much of an emotional connection you got to the home and then having that being taken away. That is another thing that a broker really helps with, is we try to keep everybody level-headed. There is a part of the buying process where you will see a buyer go to a house, put an offer in, it gets rejected, rinse, repeat. 5 or 6 offers get rejected and they feel defeated, and then they start having this, I don't even call it a buyer's kind of consumption, but they just, the next house, it doesn't matter what it is, they just want to buy it and they're just going to go all in on it. My job is to kind of keep that level-headedness, kind of like what your father-in-law was telling you. Hey, let's dial it back a little bit. Like, this is a big purchase. Let's not get too emotionally attached to it. This is something that I love doing. I love connecting with my clients. I love being able to share that story with them where they're looking for a home that's going to be the perfect spot for their family, and they want to have a big backyard, and they want to be able to have a lot of wooded space, or they need to have a big bedroom, or they're whatever their story might have. I love being that problem solver, being able to look on the market, see what's available, put the pieces together, kind of crunch some numbers, and really grind at that process. And that's something that you have to enjoy doing, because that is a very tedious editing type process. I mean, you're just in front of your computer going through home after home, and it might be the thing where you see the perfect property, but then you pull up the property condition disclosure and realize, oh no, this house had a fire 4 years ago. And then you have to go through the process of what was damaged, what was fixed, was it done the proper way, did they do licensed contractors with this? I mean, the amount of information that goes into this, we'll call it buying process, is almost infinity. I mean, there's so much that can go into it. However, if you look at this clear-headed and you realistically can help their clients see what is actually being presented, that is what really helps. But also kind of tying back and switching gears, not only just to what would be like a home buying process, gearing into what would be a commercial space, which is for like at Recchio Real Estate, about 90% of our deals are commercial based. We do have about 10% residential, and we do have agents that focus specifically on residential. I do about 50-50 because I love the residential side. I love being able to help people, being able to connect them to the home that they're buying. But also the commercial side of things really has its own advantages as well, where these people are buying spaces for their businesses. They're maybe retiring, and maybe they need kind of, this is going to be the biggest transaction of their entire career or their whole life. When it comes to the commercial side of things, there's just as much emotional connection to it, and as much puzzle matching and puzzle kind of creative kind of shifting to make sure that you can kind of align everything correctly or find the right property. So it's really, I mean, they both go hand in hand together, even though they're almost completely opposites when you're dealing with a personal client in a commercial space. But one of the things that I found that I actually read in Iron Ore was on chapter 5 under swords. You said something that connected with me really well, because I had so many of these days in real estate. I forget the exact passage, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but you had said something. I woke up this morning, and it was the morning of a retreat on Saturday, and my heart wasn't in it. I just wasn't feeling it. So I decided to pray, and I said, Lord, help me today, guide me through this. And I believe you were doing something like a soil, seed, and water that day, or whatever the case might be. But that really stuck with me, because not every day is a perfect day. Not every day is going to go the way you expect it to. Every day is a blessing, but we just don't see it. And we can have days where we are really struggling, where we don't see or feel like we are worthy enough, or that we've done it, or that we're struggling, or that the cross that we're carrying is just too heavy and we fall. And there are these days in real estate. Sometimes it's easier to stand up. Sometimes you have to lay there a little bit. But that one section you put in your book was something that I read, and I completely related to it. Because when you fall, the fact that you do get up, and the fact that you realize by you standing up is exactly what God wants you to do, and exactly what your family needs for you to do, and exactly what your career needs for you to do, and exactly what has to be done in that moment, is such a powerful feeling that even when you're so defeated, having the strength to get up one more time is all that it took to be a successful person for the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. So kudos to Iron Ore.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're the first person to reference iron ore on this
Really?
podcast. Yeah. Usually we're talking about other things.
I know.
Wow.
But that was one of the ones where, I mean, I love the style of how the book's written, because it's not chapter 1. When I was a young boy, I did. No, you put journal entries in there, which are collections of what you can pass down to your children. These stories or these moments or these feelings or whatever you have written about in that particular time is what you're doing in your own life, your own struggles, your own fears, your own blessings, honestly, that allow you to be shared for people to relate with. And like it's done for myself. I mean, I've told you that the retreats that we've done together and things, I have connected on so many levels of, even when we did adoration downtown and just being present in front of the Lord, I had this overwhelming feeling of just pure bliss, of just knowing that he was in the room with us and that it was something that we truly had the pleasure of being in his kind of glory. These are moments. These are God winks. These are things that through everyday's life and struggles and career and family lives, being able to recognize and understanding you're not perfect. You're gonna struggle. You're gonna fall. You're gonna have great days in your career. You're gonna have days where everything crashes and burns. Standing up, letting God help you get to that next step, take another step further. If you're hiking in the woods and you're exhausted and you take that one more step over that rock, and that's the feeling. And guess what? It's one more step, and then it's one more step, and then it's one more step. And then next you know, you're at the peak. You're there. And you think, how did I ever do this? How did I get here? I was going to quit a half mile ago. And that's life. That's your career. That's your family. That's yourself. That's your body. That is everything that you collectively put together. He has already done it. He's already told you he was going to take care of you. He's already told you this has already been my will. Recognizing that is half the battle. The other half of it is understanding that how much of a blessing it is, and that when you are on your lows, it is something that you really need to understand, that just because it looks horrible or it looks bad or it's not a great day, it's still a blessing.
The thing that drives that get up as a Christian, right, is looking at Jesus with the cross, right? He tells us to pick up the cross and follow him. And that is not an easy march, right? It is not a comfortable existence to be a Christian, right? To be the Catholic that wants to go and follow him. It takes a certain amount of grit to be able to pick that up in the first place. And whatever our cross is handed, right, to go and follow him means that we're going uphill, right? We're getting beat along the way. We're tired. You know, we don't have respite in some of these areas. And so when you get to that place where you feel like you're going to fail, that, like what you were just saying, one more step, right? Just one more step. And when you fall, you get back up. Jesus showed us what that looks like through the Gospels of, if you fall, you get back up and you still get to the top. And sometimes the top leads to your death, right? And you still follow him because it doesn't end at the death.
Right.
It goes beyond that into the resurrection.
Right.
And so when we follow him, we can expect the same thing. Wow, man, that is...
It's not an easy thing to think about. It's not.
No.
And it doesn't come organically. It is you don't think naturally, oh yeah, when I get to the top is going to be death. But then that's kind of a good thing, because then you get to enter the kingdom of heaven potentially. I mean, like,
right.
It's not something that is kind of comfortable, to say the least. But what I will say is, you can practice understanding this by taking small portions of the Bible, listening to people who are faith-filled on social media and are preaching the correct, I'll say, message, and surround yourself with community members like yourself and friends and family of good moral and ethical decisions that drive you to be a better person and a better family member and a better friend. And these are all things that, as a kind of a full package, when I started Bible in a Year with Father Mike Schmidt, I still haven't gotten through it because I'm just that type of person.
It's okay. I haven't even started.
Yeah. But it is the type of thing where it just, like, if you didn't get it, I couldn't tell you how many times I had to go back and listen to like the same story over and over. Because, like, I mean, you know how long it took me to understand the sacrifices that Moses put into place, where if you don't have a calf, you take a goat. If you don't have a goat, you go to unleavened bread. And like, these aren't stories that you're supposed to understand immediately. I mean, I'm not a historian. I don't understand the exact timeline and lineage of all these things. But the point of it isn't necessarily understanding and memorizing all the details. It's the meaning behind it, to which, if you hear the story of Job, he had it all and then had everything taken away, except the one thing was his soul. The devil couldn't touch that. And the devil is always around. He's always providing temptation. He's always a voice in our ear. And we're never perfect. We're always going to sin. There's always going to be struggles. But even Job kept his faith. And even after his friends visited him and said, "Why are you still faithful? Look what he's done. He's taken everything from you." No, I'm so blessed. I still have his love. And then after that, he gets it back tenfold.
You know, and this is what I love about having conversations with men who are steeped in the faith, right? Because we can take the conversation of our productivity, right, of our labor. And you could easily have a podcast where we sit down and we just talk about the nuts and bolts of the work, right? Just talk about the investment, talk about the process.
Yeah.
But for the faithful man to step into it, it gives it texture.
Yeah.
Right? So the suffering that you might have, whether it's the hustle on just getting started, maybe you're trying to measure out how you provide for your family, maybe it's just talking about the nuts and bolts, right, of the thing that you're doing. There is a greater depth to the why of why we execute what we're doing. When you have your eye on who Christ is, because he fills that in us, right? And just in the same way, like how you're pulling this type of reflection through your labor, right? But you're putting the faithful aspect onto that.
Right.
That gives guidance and wisdom for the actions that you're taking. This is a powerful thing, I think, for any guy who is in the midst of their work. You don't have to have it disconnected.
Yeah.
It weaves through and gives purpose to the things that you're doing.
And I can understand this too, because I mean, and I'll use an exact example from my career of a specific component to where I was shameful to say something to which now I embrace it. And here's how that story is going to go. Come Christmas time, whenever I would email a client, especially kind of, hey, I know I'm not going to talk to you for at least until after the holidays, I would, especially in the beginning of my career, and I only recently started doing this, I would just say, "Happy holidays." And the reason I'd say that is because I couldn't afford for my clients to be offended, because it would have potentially jeopardized maybe a couple real estate deals or the relationship with that client or whatever the case might be. So I always said, "Happy holidays." I now put in bold letters, Merry Christmas. And the reason is I don't want to ever stray away from who I am. And that was a small little quirk in my real estate career where you see companies send out these email blasts that say, Happy Holidays from XYZ business. And then you'd see a company that may not be as big or like someone like myself that says, I really hope you have a Merry Christmas. And I'm not meaning that in a way of, oh, well, you don't respect my religion or my faith or whatever I'm doing. But no, I mean it as a heartfelt, I truly hope that the good Lord blesses you during this time of the Christmas season. So I now message Merry Christmas, and I usually get back a Merry Christmas to you too, or a Happy Holidays or something else. But I used to shine away from Merry Christmas, and because I was too afraid it was going to offend somebody, or I was too afraid it was going to reflect my career in a negative manner, or it might kill the deal, or whatever the relationship might tarnish. But now I understand that it's actually was the exact opposite. I'm building better relationships with people that also say Merry Christmas, or that see, oh, he's not afraid to say Merry Christmas, or he's so foundationally sound in his faith, he says Merry Christmas. And once again, one small component that's typed at the bottom of an email, but it has so much more it has so much more of a powerful punch that in a full-blown package deal, a simple Merry Christmas might change someone's perspective, and it might just be the one thing they need to hear that Christmas season. And that was one of the things where, I kind of am constantly going back in my mind thinking of, in my career, I've had some lows. I've had some struggles. I have not had a perfect career up to this point. I've had deals crash and burn. I've had to financially figure things out because if I do a deal today, I don't get paid for another 3, 4, 5 months down the road. I've got bills to pay. I've got things to do. It's been a struggle, but it hasn't been an impossible task. And ultimately, it's because my wife has been very supportive. My father-in-law has been supportive. My mother-in-law, my family, my children. They understand Daddy goes to work and this is what he does. And they think I honestly sell every house that's ever going up for sale, but that's fine. I won't tell them no. Yeah, it's pretty good. But it's the type of thing where with all the good, with all of the bad, with all of the struggles, and with all the blessings, this is his plan. This is what he had in store for me. And as I begin to realize that everything's going to be okay because it is his will, it has allowed me to only become stronger in my faith.
Man.
Yeah. It's a fun one.
So when you take I want to pivot back to a couple more points on what it looks like with that faithful lens. There was a blessing by Pope Leo on the Catholic land movement. Have you seen anything on that? The Catholic land movement?
Some things, yeah.
So I didn't know anything about this beforehand, but it's an encouragement for Catholics to get back out into the country, start owning land, and working what is the fruits of their labor. And there's a whole process to it. I'm still learning more about it. But the importance is essentially rebuilding society by owning property, owning land, and establishing Catholic families again.
Yeah.
Right? Good Christian communities that are centered on Christ, but having the power of land ownership. Whether it's homesteading or, you're doing other aspects of business or industry, you're still fueling that aspect of, hey, we're going to build community again.
Yeah.
What's your take on that through the lens as somebody who deals with real estate? How could you encourage people to move in that direction, to be able to own land, own property, and rebuild community again?
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
Yes, I absolutely would suggest to anybody who has the ability to buy land, and I'll call it agricultural development as like a title process, similar to kind of what these retreats are, which I believe you're doing the Adirondacks on August 28th. Awesome. You should be there.
Oh, here
Right.
we go.
So
We're back at it. Canoes this time.
I heard,
So we're
yeah.
not at the peaks. We're down in the valley.
So I will let you know whether I'll be going. Gianna's birthday is right around there as well. So I will see what I can do, but I'll
Family
keep you
first.
posted.
I get it. Yeah.
But similar to what nature has to offer is very similar to what you have the ability to purchase through land. And what it is the sense of when you're out in nature and you're one with God's creation, you are able to feel a close connection to the almighty power that he has. When you own your own land and when you feel the pride in kind of what you have purchased and the fruits of kind of your labor are the trees and soils that you have, it's an amazing feeling. It's a great connection point that you can have with God and with yourself and with your family. And then taking it a step further, which is not just purchasing the land, but then allowing, I should say, families and communities and the structure of maybe buying a couple of chickens. Now, it may not be much. A couple of chickens always kind of run around. They peck at the ground, they eat a couple bugs, and then they lay a couple eggs. But those eggs are going to taste better than any eggs you've had in a supermarket. And then it kind of evolves into maybe I get some goats, and then you get some milk, or maybe you get some kind of other animals, and you start creating what would be a very simplistic yet nature-filled lifestyle. And one of the things that is very organic about that type of nature is going to be the connection with God, the growth of your family, and the growth of a community that you would surround yourself with. So I have a lot of homeschool families that we know and can relate to, that they have already made the leap to buy 30 some odd acres in a remote section outside of Buffalo, and they have chickens and goats and horses and whatever it might be, and they live that type of simplistic lifestyle, but it's very faith-filled. And to say that I'm jealous is not the right term. I'm extremely happy for those people and for my friends that they've been able to do that and still have that connection. And even though it is something that I eventually wish to do at some point, envious is not the right word to use towards that type of nature. It's more of the proud feeling that you get when you see one of your teammates get MVP for a sporting event, and you're just so not impressed, but truly just rewarded that somebody that you know is getting praised or being able to do something that you eventually want to do or strive for, but you're happy in the moment for them. These type of communities is exactly what we need. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of craziness.
Right.
But I think what is truly the most, I should say, treacherous component to everything is how much the devil has won, how much he's been in somebody's ear, how much he's normalized sin. oh, it's okay if you do it this way, or it's okay if you lie or cheat or steal or lust or any of these other components that truly draw you away from our Lord and Savior. And right now, I mean, there's a lot that is scary. There's a lot that's unknown. There's a lot that kind of goes into the political world and the rest of the nation and everything of that kind of, I'll say, dilemma. But ultimately, that's the work of the devil. That is his way of disconnecting people with what is truly important. When you have land, you're not glued to a cell phone. You're tending the sheep. When you're not sitting there and bored, so you find sinful things to do, you're out in nature, or you're doing things that are responsible, or that are, I should say, creatively growing your soul's connection with God's original creation. We can all learn from the Bible because that is the greatest book that was ever written. There's never been any other story that's been written over 1,500 years that has, oh, I'm getting my numbers wrong. Is it 1,500 writers or 1,500 years? I'm pretty sure it's 1,500 years.
Since the Bible?
No, like how long it took to write the Bible.
Oh, yeah, well, it depends on where you're starting.
Yeah, I think it's like 1,500 years and numerous authors. There's never been a book that has that much connective points that relate from Old Testament to New Testament without any contradictions. There's nothing that contradicts itself in the Bible. With this crazy world that we live in, once again, not knowing where to start, not knowing what to do, not knowing who to turn to yourself. Look inward. Quiet your heart. Get in a quiet room, just like how the Lord tells us to pray. Don't pray in front of the temple and preach it out to everybody and tell everybody what you've been doing. Close the door. Find a quiet room. Pray to me. This is what the world needs right now. They need to understand that through all the pain, through all the suffering, through all of the hurt, through all of everything that is going on with the world right now, he is still here. He still loves you. He's still with us. And the right way to do it is kind of what the Pope has done, which is starting these adventures of purchase land. Get these right communities together. Fill yourself with what truly the message should be of starting at the creation and then work your way up from there.
So I have a dream. It's something that I've been working with Ani about, laying out the vision for where we're going to go as a family after this, right? So we're in this house and it's been good to us. We're starting to outgrow it. Just even dream and vision wise, like I want more space.
Sure.
And Ani has been talking about, wouldn't it be great to have chickens, right?
Yeah.
And I love that homestead, like
Yeah.
that whole setup. I'm in between doing a village life, something that's just super walkable, to homestead, right?
Sure.
Those are the two things we're weighing out. But the more that I think and ponder through, what does life look like as we kind of extend out, right? If we were to get into that next season of life here, it just becomes more attractive to have that space, to be able to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And I think there is a spirituality to working the land. And it was Saint Benedict who had really emphasized the work. Whether you're just doing the dishes or you're tending the land, to be able to have the fruit of your labor carry a spirituality with it. Yeah. I find that attractive. Like as I'm getting older, as I'm seasoning into my vocation in marriage, as I season into owning the business, of saying, you know what, there is something to that, of being able to work the land with your hands, and to be able to have something to show for it, right? So if you can bring food onto the table, especially with egg, I was just thinking the other day how the eggs that we're buying at Wegmans, right, are so flimsy. They just crumble every time you crack them. It crumbles. You get a good egg, there's a clean crack to that, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't shatter into milk. So just the quality of your food changes.
Right.
And that's something I want to be able to pursue more and to reap out of the land that we're building.
Yeah,
right?
the quality of the food changes, but the quality of your soul changes. It's exactly what you said, which is the connection you make. It's almost like a primitive lifestyle. Like, yes, I'm hunting and gathering for my food. I am a man type thing. But yes, the connection is you are growing your soul to be more connected to the Lord. And yes, you have kind of hit the nail on the head for me. I grew up in a small town, big hunter, big fisherman. Like my family, we didn't go to like Myrtle Beach for vacation. I went and hiked mountains in Montana. I've been to Alaska, Minnesota, Maine. I've been to Dakotas. I've been to, you name it, I've probably been on top of that mountain. However, through those family ventures, through the kayak or canoeing in Minnesota in June, where you learn that the state bird is the mosquito, there are truly some wonderful things to take out of it, which is to see God's creation is just, it's breathtaking. I mean, and you know this from being in nature, and that's the type of thing. A lot of my connection with God that I got when I was younger, and I'm talking maybe 10 years old, give or take, was when I was sitting in a tree stand, 30 feet up in the air, couldn't see 3 feet in front of my nose, but I'm just being quiet, waiting for the deer to come by. But I had nothing better to do than to talk to God. And those were the moments that I realized that I was able to meditate. Before I knew what I was doing, I realized I was doing it. I was open with God. I was talking to him. I was letting him guide me in the direction that I needed to go. And now as I'm older, I'm no longer sitting in a tree stand. I'm sitting behind a desk. But I still have that same drive to talk to God, to communicate with him, to seek what would be that primitive lifestyle of good quality food, good quality life, and good quality relationship with my soul.
I didn't know you were such an adventurer.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta have you back. We gotta spend time talking about the map.
I've been to Anchorage. I've been to Juneau. I've been to Yellowstone. There's a picture of I'm looking at your national parks map here, but I've been to, I believe it was St. Mary's Mountain in Maine. That was another one we went to. But yeah, I've done a lot of those.
Wow.
So now and what's fun about this is there's not one space that is going to give you the answer. There is not one mountain that you're going to climb, and when you get to the top, I figured it out. It's the journey going up and coming down that separate the question from the answer that you've been looking for. And here's how I can remember this. When we went to Maine, my family went, we got to the top of the mountain. It was amazing. However, my aunt came, and she's a heavier set lady, and my dad was behind her. And when I say that these trails were medium to hard, you can kind of understand. They went from probably a 45-degree angle to like a steep, maybe 10-foot rock climb to then get you to the next kind of trail. So for my aunt, this was a huge task. My dad had patience. My dad walked with her the entire way. My brother and I, we ran up this mountain. I mean, we did it in like 4 hours, and we knew what we were doing. But what I learned was why didn't Dad come with us? Well, Dad was holding my aunt's hand, and he walked up the mountain with her. And what I learned about this was she had given up a long time ago. She gave up halfway up the mountain. She was not going to make it. She was going to turn around. And my dad stayed behind her, but in the right manner, pushed her one more step. And eventually got her to the top of the mountain. Now, granted, by the time she got up there, me and my brother were ready to go to the next mountain. But she made it. And I will never forget, she sat down, she just stared into the abyss. And I asked her, "Hey, Auntie, are you okay?" And she said, "I've never been better." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Want to go do the next one?" And that's not what she meant. And I realize now what she meant. There was something that she had written off as impossible and made it possible. And how I know that is because I remember when I asked my dad, I said, "Hey, Dad, why did you stay with Auntie the whole time? Why did you do that?" And he goes, "She needed me more than you needed me." And I realized that wasn't an answer that he gave. That was an answer that came right from God, which was every male knows that when you're being called to something, that call is so loud and so understanding. There's nothing else in the world that matters. My dad was called to help my aunt. My aunt did an impossible task, but was unable to do it without his help. I now know that the journey was not the top for me. It was now understanding the trip up was what was important. And then in other stories, the trip back down the mountain. But yes, those are God winks, life lessons, things that you will eventually realize that if you listen, God talks all the time to you. And in that moment, I heard my dad say that she needed me more than you guys needed me. But I realize now that wasn't my dad saying that she needed me. That was God working through him as a man and a father to help somebody who needed more help than anybody else on that mountain. So, and these are great adventures from when I went to Alaska, to Yellowstone, to Maine, Minnesota, all these places. I mean, there's always great stories. My dad was a great man. He still is a great man. He hasn't passed or anything, but my dad's an artist. Shout out Trout Mountain Works, in case anybody's looking for some good artwork. He was an excellent golfer. He was a great businessman. He did a bunch of stuff, but he was also nature-filled. So he taught me how to make bamboo fly rods from bamboo canes, which is a skill, a masterful skill that very few people know how to do in this world. I know how to make bamboo rods, which, if made properly, are stronger than steel. But he taught himself this. He taught himself how to horseback ride. When we went in Montana, we went on this ranch, and my brother and I were probably 8 and 12, and my brother's horse lost control, and my brother's saddle went sideways. So he's 12 years old, sideways on a horse, and I saw my dad take the reins of the horse and the mane, pulled it back, turned the horse on a 2-foot trail on the side of a mountain, walk the horse backwards, gallop on next to everybody, grab my brother, throw it over his horse, and then that horse took off down the mountain. Crazy stories that you're like, this has got to be something out of a fairy tale or made up. But just in case anybody's wondering, the horse name was Squirrely. It was
That's appropriate.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, but throughout my life, there have been these God winks and great adventures that we've gone on. But ultimately, what's always been the reoccurring denominator between this entire adventure was God being present in my life, God being willing to talk to me when I prayed to him, and God always reassuring me that he's still with us, no matter what the day has to offer, the good, the bad, the happy, the sad. He has provided us with truly the greatest gift in the world.
Wow. Amen.
Amen.
You know what? I feel like this is a great spot to leave it.
All right.
We've been chatting for a good amount of time.
I've just been chatting away. I love to talk, so I apologize.
Yeah, no, this is great. We're going on 2 hours here.
Oh my goodness.
So packed full of great wisdom, knowledge, and faithfulness. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. So,
Listen, thank
John,
you.
thank you.
No, thank you.
No,
thank
this
you
is
for
great.
Listen,
Hey,
everything you've done with Righteous Co., everything with Iron Ore, the message that you give, the people that you connect with, I mean, you have been a huge part of my faith to being who I am. So I appreciate you being kind of as open as you've been. All of our coffee mornings that we've taken before. Truly, I cannot thank you enough for being such an amazing friend.
right back at you. You know, I feel like I've learned a lot from you in the midst of your travels of being a husband, a father, a man in pursuit, you know, not just in pursuit of the worldly sense, but of what God is crafting you for, you know. So thanks for being a great witness to that. You know, it's inspiring to my own journey.
Yeah.
So, hey, for those of you tuning into this, thank you for following along. And wherever you find yourself in your journey, know that you're not alone. There's other men out there who are in pursuit of not only a relationship with a God who gives them great purpose, but to be able to put that to traction in their own vocation, in their labor. So you're not alone with that. And don't be afraid to reach out. So if you find yourself stuck, if you find yourself in a place where maybe you're alone, maybe you've got your own pain points, don't be alone with that journey. So you've got plenty of men that would be willing to rally around you. You know, myself, a guy like John, I'm sure John would be happy to take a phone call from any lonely man lost on the woods. So if you're in the Buffalo area, I don't know how far you reach out with Recchio, but
So Recchio Real Estate, we go from Lake Ontario to northern Pennsylvania. So we've got like 600 listings throughout the whole branch. So
wow.
anything western New York or northern Pennsylvania, we can handle the real estate business. So
if you're looking for a man of integrity, a guy of faith who is going to do the work wildly well, and also speak the language that you are too, you need to reach out to John. And he will take excellent care of you. I know for the next move that we're going to be making in real estate, you're going to be my guy. So
appreciate it.
Anybody in this area,
Yeah.
you need a real estate agent that's going to cover your back, call up John.
And for anybody who's looking for a good read, Iron Ore, it's a great book. I'm not much of a reader. Pretty sure every book I've read started with Harry Potter and but great book to read. And then just Adam, thank you for everything you've done with Righteous Co. and the people you've connected with and the retreats that you've led these young men on and all your work with youth ministry and everything. I mean, thank you, truly. I mean, you have made such an impact on our community, and I hope it keeps growing.
Man, I appreciate that because we're trying to build something that is resilient and open to where the Lord has taken. And he has done awesome things with this. And we just continue to hope and pray for his will on this. So we're going to keep making big swings. We're going to keep working with men. And man, praise God for that. So
Praise God.
Lift that up. So guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next time. We've got a great schedule of excellent guests coming back on here for more conversations. Make sure that you subscribe and follow along. We'll see you next time.
You gotta outwork the